This is the Investor Connect podcast program. I'm Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of this show in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, family offices, private equity, and many other investors for early stage and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today I'm here with Jared Augustine of Thuzio. Jared, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Hall. Thanks for having me.
Great. So what was your background before joining Thuzio? What did you do before this?
I've been in startup technology businesses really my whole career. I was the 10th employee at Seamless Web, the online food ordering business, part of the founding executive team there, all through my early part of my career. Worked on another startup as part of the daily deals space as part of the founding team there for a few years, and then met my two co-founders of, we've now started two different businesses together, including Thuzio, my co-founders being Tiki Barber, which is a name many people know if you follow sports and entertainment, and Mark Gerson, founder of a very successful business called Gerson Lehrman Group, better known as GLG. Mark, Tiki, and I started up together about 8 years ago, launched our first business, which was an online marketplace for influencers that's now branded Julius. And then we subsequently spun out the events business, which is now branded Thuzio, and is where I spend most of my time today.
And so tell us more about the sports and events and media space. What do you like about that space? What attracted you to it?
Well, yeah, as I mentioned, I've been working on technology business my whole career, venture-backed technology businesses. I just think working at a sort of venture-backed technology startup, the challenges are very different than the challenges that are there for a sports events and media company, as you might expect. And for me, I sort of am very much enjoying this new set of challenges with this business type and sector after spending many years with the pretty consistent challenges that come with running venture tech. And to give you some examples of that, of what excites me about sports events and media, one is just that when you're building a technology business and you're raising funding, you're very, very focused on top line growth. You're generally not as focused on positive EBITDA. And as a result, you're fundraising most of the time. And I was really looking forward to building an events and content business that we could set a clear trajectory at being a cash flow break-even business, an EBITDA positive business, and work towards that so that I could spend my time more on operations and team building and less time on necessarily on fundraising. So that's just sort of the kind of like a somewhat obvious difference of those two different business types that was enticing to me. And then, of course, I'm a sports fan. So I get to work in sports and partner with an athlete that I grew up admiring and have the opportunity to meet and work with a lot of really special people. And that certainly keeps the day-to-day exciting.
Great. So what's your advice for people investing in this space? What do you tell them to do before they write that first check?
Oh, I don't know that investing in sports and media is any different than any other, investing in any other sector. I think you've got to look at what's the market opportunity? What does the competitive landscape look like? What's the team? Who's the team that's going to be organizing, running the business? I think all the same rules probably apply. I think with sports investing, maybe one thing that you have to be wary of is that you can meet a lot of really interesting, exciting people with some bad ideas along the way. And so maybe just need to be a little bit more, maybe it helps to enter the market with some skepticism, kind of start from a place of skepticism and be convinced otherwise as you're evaluating opportunities. There's also a lot of money that can follow ideas. And I guess these things are related that are not necessarily set up for success, but just because of the ease of access to capital, they can find themselves funded without maybe being as well organized or as disciplined as a more, traditional technology company, something that I've had quite a bit of experience in. So I'd say I've noticed some differences there as well.
Well, that's good advice. So you've seen this industry over a number of years. How do you see it evolving? What changes do you see happening there? And what's the growth rate in it?
Well, that's how is sports evolving in so many exciting ways. Sports and entertainment massive, massive market. One of those markets that's so big, you don't even really need to talk about size as much. I can tell you that one of the really interesting segments of the market that we spend a lot of time in, our business kind of crosses over between the sports media landscape and the, what I would describe as like premium hospitality landscape. And there are two separate markets within the overall the sort of global sports market. So on the sports media side, I think some of the most interesting things are happening is you see publishers driving revenue in different ways than traditionally. So instead of, take a look at The Athletic, they went out with this, really something never been done. They hired up a bunch of reporters, they paid them top dollar. They felt those reporters had premium access to premium content, exclusive content. And then they decided to go back with same sort of high quality journalism. And rather than just putting it on a screen and letting people access it, they put up a paywall. And they've been arguably successful. We'll see how it all turns out, but they've been quite successful in ramping subscription. And so that was a pretty significant innovation, I would say, on the sports media side that just happened very recently. And I think that's got a lot of publishers thinking about how do we monetize? How do we maybe think about this differently? On the premium hospitality side, I think that you have teams and leagues looking for ways to get people to still want to come to the stadiums and arenas as the home viewing experience becomes so strong. There's these teams and leagues have to go further in order to be able to get people to show up. And so I think at premium hospitality, you see some really incredible innovations around the in-game experience. And I think that not just related to maybe there are a lot of different innovations related to access to the athletes in and around the game, access to a really premium hospitality setting and experience, how comfortable you are in your suite and the food and drink available to you, and then the technology experience that's available to you in game. And we'll continue to see really rapid improvements there. So, those are two interesting sectors with a lot of exciting growth and change that we get to straddle.
Great. So what are the challenges in this space? When you run a business in this area, what do you come up against?
Well, I think what are the challenges? I think the challenges are like that of most any sector. You have to think about when you're starting a new business, and you have to think very clearly about who's your customer, what's the value you're creating for them, what's the problem you're solving for them. I don't think that that's any different in sports necessarily than it is in any other market in terms of how you approach the market. I do think that in sports, you can develop, it's not the same sort of IP as a technology company has, but creating access in sports, access to the talent, to the athletes, to their stories, that access almost becomes IP. If you look at how, say, Uninterrupted, the LeBron James backed media company has built itself, or the Players Tribune backed by Derek Jeter. I mean, they created access to the athletes that no one else who just kind of popped up a sports media company in your garage could ever dream of doing. And that access is really their IP and what they're able to leverage. I think that you can approach this market if you can create points of access. The Athletic, an example I gave before, top reporters with access to the athletes, same idea. That's your IP. That's sort of unique to sports, and that it's not a physical thing. It's just something you either have available to you or you don't. And you can really build a business on that access, on that IP.
So access to premium athletes is really the secret sauce there. If you have access, you can monetize that, and that can be the core of a good business.
Yeah, I think that it can be. It doesn't have to be, but that's one way of doing it. I think there's been several recent sports media companies that have proven that out to be the case, and then are going about monetization of that access in various ways, whether it be The Athletic with a subscription, Uninterrupted and the Players Room with more of a branded content play, or Thuzio with the membership and events model.
Great. So let's talk more about Thuzio and how does it fit into this landscape?
So what our business is we produce a athlete speaker series, a national athlete speaker series, where we pop up events and produce live interview show with these remarkable, iconic athletes. We'll run about 100 events across 10 US cities in 2020. And the way that we monetize our business is very similar to that of a sports any sports team or sports property. In the end, it's tickets and sponsorship. And what's different for us is instead of selling what we would call season tickets the way the teams would, we sell a membership. And so we have several hundred companies that have a membership. They become members of Thuzio, and that gives their employees and executives access to our events. And they leverage our events to be able to create a great experience for their top clients, prospects, and reward employees. So that's our business. We're a speaker series. And alongside that sort of core event business, we have the output of all the content from our events. At every event, we're filming these interviews. We really have built the company on the idea that the stories these athletes can tell are arguably as entertaining as what they do on the field. And within these stories, there's so many amazing learnings and lessons for the broader public because these athletes are the best at what they've done. And so exciting phase for our business now is actually bringing that content to life more in the way of a traditional media publisher. We're in the process of launching a podcast. We're in the process of launching several different video series, original content series, and building out not just the experience for our members in the room, but also the content experience beyond the room.
I see a lot of sports media on cable now trying to navigate the shift to streaming. What's your take on that transition to the latest technology, which is now going to be streaming?
I think everybody's got to do it. That's where people are, where they want to consume content, sports content, all content. So I think that investment is justified. I think that, there's people far more qualified to speak on this topic than I am, but my 2 cents is that all the various over-the-top networks are going to be required for everyone who is serious about sharing a live game experience or publishing sports content. It seems to be going exactly that way. I think regardless of how the content is distributed, there's going to be some really exciting rights deals to be done in the coming years, and streaming will be a part of it.
Great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here today, what else should we cover that we haven't?
Well, I would say that, look, I think one thing that I'd like people to know about Thuzio is that we've developed a relatively significant brand at this point, producing these events for membership communities across 10 US markets. But in the end, we're still a small business. It's just a team of 12 employees, and that makes us all go. We also have a staff, a part-time event staff in each of the cities that we operate in. So our family's certainly bigger than 12, but 12 FTEs. And I share that with people who are learning about our business because it's important to know and understand, I think, stages. And we're in this really fun familial stage at Thuzio with a team that is really excited and passionate about the business. And I hope that comes across in the product that we deliver back to our members. And I always like to reference this point in time because I remember at Seamless Web, when we were this small, Seamless Web ultimately branded Seamless and merged with Grubhub. And I remember the days when we were just 10, 12 employees, and I remember them fondly. And I think that always came across in our relationships with customers when we were just that big. And so I like to share that we're a growing company to be reckoned with and doing some pretty exciting stuff.
Well, that's great. So how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
Oh, I'm easy. Just send me an email, jared@thuzio.com, JARED @Jared Augustine on Twitter.
Great. We'll put those in the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Thank you, Hall.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Halti Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for the basis of investment decisions.